Hey everyone, welcome back. I've got Sai with me again.
Hi, this is Sai, and I'm with Lucid again.
Yeah, and we've got another exciting turn for you here in the tournament finals. This is not a game where many people are just hanging out, seeing how things are going to go. It's what, turn 15? Did I say 16? And there's a lot of action. Pretty much everybody's fighting except for like Utgard and Vedheim, I think.
And
Maybe
Marignon.
and Marignon.
And Vedheim is part of the anti-Mictlan coalition, so they're not
Right.
necessarily engaged right now, but they do have a first war already decided.
That's true. Actually, yeah, Vedheim doesn't really count in that because there's a bunch of people who are about to fight Pangea, Mictlan, who else is it? Gath. So, cool stuff coming up. We'll start with messages from Pythium. First move into Atlantis went smooth enough. Too much attrition on our eastern party. That was the little caveman squad. But we're trying to budget that one out anyway. The situation there improves next turn when the Palisades is finished. It's really a dangerous couple of provinces. If he can get to the coastline and use that lake to deep raid into our lands. If you notice last turn, the Renatus cast Horde of Skeletons, which confirms to any watchers, including Atlantis, that we have enchantment 5. If Atlantis noticed, then he faces a choice. His troops fall into two groups, the poison-resistant Sacreds, with no bless other than poison resistance, or the non-poison resistance guys, which have ice protection. Luckily for us, they neither complement each other well in a big fight with us. Neither? Isn't it normally neither nor or something? I guess neither of them. Okay, anyway, they don't complement each other. If he brings his ice protection guys, we cast Foul Vapors. And the losses among the non-poison resistant troops will morale rout the Sacreds. If he leaves the ice protection guys at home, then he is without his most tanky guys, and my combatants is well outnumbered beat his Astertuts in a straight-up fight.
So what you can do is put a line of the Ice Guard in front, and then the Astertuts behind them. Just, in order to have them in melee while they're taking the poison damage, so that if they are going to die of poison, that they're at least doing their fighting first. Right. And then the Astertuts are fighting the slightly fatigued and lower HP units to hopefully kill them quickly. Along the same lines, you can use your Ice Guard units as kind of like your center core and try to use the Astertuts as sacred flankers. So you do have options to actually use both of them in a fight, especially given that Atlantis isn't like massively ahead in troop count or anything.
And I think the thing he hasn't mentioned so far, we'll see if he has another message, is the Ghost King. Because if he didn't change the script on that army, the Ghost King should be able to kill it. If he leaves the ice protection guys at home, then he's... Okay, we already said that. So we're pinging the force between his cap and the fort to see what he sends at us and which decision he makes. He may go for the brute strength, in which case we'll see how good our foul vapor defenses are. We leave the throne for now. It's tempting, but moving there would open our army up to being cut off. We can hit it with a raid in a couple of turns.
I agree you don't hit the throne there, but yeah.
2 final points. We took a starting dominion of 3, lol, so we need more temples. 2, Atlantis' god is both scary and not scary. A couple of well-placed dust to dusts, and he's a goner.
But okay, so he knows about dust to dust.
Right. Okay, so he's probably on advance and cast. But if his fear aura hits before dust to dust hits, that's a problem. So this gets into like clear speed rather than... Because you're not going to really tank the army. Does Atlantis have access? He doesn't have water on it, does he?
Nope.
So he'd have to fluff quickness, which is something he can do. But I think it's like swapping out weapons, fluffing quickness, and then letting him go ham. But
I definitely slam the god at something just because since all of your land mages are priests anyways, you can call it back relatively easily. And it's probably your highest impact single unit, especially if you see that Pythium doesn't have their guys on advance and cast, and you can take advantage of a scripting error like that.
Right. Though maybe it's like the Jedi mind play where you bait them into thinking you're not advancing casting, and then you do.
Yeah.
Well, let's just go look. We'll just see. Okay, so Pythium attacks this fort from Atlantis with this reason. Oh my gosh, that is a big PD, and it looks like Indie crossbows.
Okay, and yeah, so Gift of the Sacred Swamp is Pythium's national poison resistant spell. That's kind of what makes them the best Foul Vapor's non-undead nation.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Sleep Clouds are also very effective with this Foul Vapor's focused build. So
Right.
great synergy there.
It looks like these guys in the front were running a lot. Oh, I guess they're PD. These are the militia. No? Snow Warriors? There were definitely some guys that were running. Oh, yeah, those guys are running.
I mean, there's some guys that are running, but they're also dying, right?
Yeah.
Like they're running because they lost most of their hit points.
Yeah. Let's watch that again. That was exciting.
So this is actually very effective use of the Foul Vapors tech. Like, obviously, Foul Vapors is great, you know, when someone's running at you with just a bunch of infantry in one blob, right? So, like, this is, in a sense, ideal use case scenario. But you can just see visually that he's very heavily outnumbered. But in addition to the fact that the Foul Vapors is doing a bunch of damage, he's also stalling this army with those sleep clouds and webs.
Yeah. Yeah.
He even has some heal on his sides. And yes, his mages are in advance.
And yeah, this is what I was looking at. Like, I saw this happen a ton. This squad gets routed, and then they actually can't run because these guys are like, it's a full sleep tile behind them. So then they're stuck here. So it's like kind of compounding the stall. Yeah. Because they won't fight, I don't think, when they're... Will they fight? Will they turn around? If they're routing, will
no, they only fight when
stuff
them? Gets... I don't think so. I think they only fight when stuff gets in their way.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
And even if they do fight, they have a massive stat penalty.
Right. All right.
But yeah, very clean. Like, he definitely took casualties there. Yeah, he took 34 unit casualties. So definitely not free. But on the other hand, he was beating an army that was like not quite twice his size, but 1.5 times his size. And these are like not chump units. Like, these are like the Ice Warriors and Snow Warriors that Atlantis gets in their PD are actually decent.
Are these... I'm trying... Do you know how much PD that is? It's... I'm guessing it's 32, but I'm not... It might be more than that.
That sounds... It would be 31, maybe? If you get one per PD, then it would be 31. Because you get your first Ice Warrior at 20.
Okay.
But I'm not... I think that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty expensive. But, I mean, it's... I think... I don't know if you really want to lose the crossbow here. Don't agree with that, but... It's not a horrible trade for Atlantis to bait out the gems, see what, confirm what's going to happen. The other thing we can check is where these guys on it. Oh, they were on advancing cast, or at least the nature mages were.
Yeah, no, they were.
They were. Yeah, okay, so he would have dusted the god with 2 death mages. Oh, more than that, 3 death mages. Yeah. So
he does lose his prophet, though. Interestingly, if his prophet had been on advancing cast, then it would have caught healing from his nature mages, because they were off script healing some of his troops. On the other hand, it's also possible this is just high enough enemy dominion that he would have not survived it regardless.
So he's using the Ghost King here as a counter raider, rather than... He was trying to catch this dinky-ass squad that's running around... I don't approve of this at all. Like, you could just kill this squad with something from your capital. Why would you use the Ghost King for that? I feel he needs to get him in a lab, too, and swap out the gear.
Yeah, the only thing that I could think of is just that he's scared of the dust-to-dust stuff, and he still wants to use the Ghost King on the field, but he doesn't want to risk it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he's going to die if he doesn't use the Ghost King, I think. So, I think he has to swap out the items... Go for this like Blitzkrieg Blender Ghost King that you fluff with quickness,
and then use him with your army.
Ooh, that's a good idea too.
Yeah, like if he is using it with like all of his units and whatnot, then the dust to dust focus isn't quite as debilitating, right? Because the mages are going to have other targets.
What about this? What about having him? What about using all the Ice Guard and stuff to maybe fight Erytheia? If Erytheia is not doing Foul Vapors, or like, raid, counter raid, all that stuff, and do the god plus the Acertits.
Yeah, and it'll auto bless them as well when they're fighting in front of the
It'll
enemy.
also auto bless them. You have somebody there to fluff the god with quickness, and basically the Acertits are just cheerleaders to keep the god from getting surrounded and to help kill things quickly, while the god just butchers stuff.
I mean, the Acertits aren't slouches themselves either.
Right. But, I mean, the god's going to be killing, like, 6 things a turn, right? So, he'll in 10 turns, he can kill, like, 50 things. So.
Yeah, and given that Pythium's army there was very light on troops, I think that if he was to use his god that way, with his sacred support, he should be able to beat that.
Right.
It's a question of if we can beat that plus Pythium's reinforcements.
Right.
Because we don't know what all mages Pythium's adding to that.
Right. So coming down, let's take a look at Erytheia. So Erytheia is attacking with a pretty big crossbow stack.
It's just a crossbow stack.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
he's got
units.
He's got units.
Yeah. But like
There's
basically
not a lot
just,
of mages, right? So
yeah, they're basically just line holding for the crossbows.
Right. And catching some friendly fire.
I mean, they're good at line holding.
Yeah.
The hoplites in particular have very high protection and hoplons.
Mm-hmm.
So that like you have friendly fire, then these guys can take it better than most.
Yeah.
I don't like that he's sending his soldiers underwater. I think that given that you're hitting both the land and water provinces, you want the underwater squad to be exclusively the hoplites.
Right. So, So Atlantis has tough decisions to make. So the capital's under check. Almost certainly Erytheia is going to know that this army's here. Here's what I think. I think that if Erytheia has an ounce of respect for Atlantis, they're not going to move on the cap. They're going to move here with the main army.
Yep, I agree. And I think that Atlantis can counter that, actually.
Right. And I think Atlantis moves here with... I think you take the Acertuts and the god and you kill this, and you take everything else and you move here, and maybe you do like baby water elemental spam behind a bit of PD here to try to catch this raider and patrol this fort with a little bit of water elemental spam too, maybe, or something. But I feel
that should work. Water elementals are going to do very well underwater against that raiding party that Erytheia is sending. And the other thing, though, is that if Marignon is getting involved, then that's another threat, right? And you don't know exactly what's in that army other than the fact that it's also got royal guards and crossbows.
Yeah, the other thing we need to point out is this attack is happening in high summer. So even though this Dominion and Atlantis' cap circle is 4 strength, it has 0 cold scales. So
they made that choice intentionally. They had actually commented on
Right.
that they're going to be attacking when summer starts.
Right. Some of this is bad RNG because it should be at least at cold 1. But yeah, that's going to be a little rough. And it might, my thinking is like, let's take the fights, right? Let's move the Astertuts and the gods here. Let's see what they got. And then let's take these guys and have a pitched fight here. There may be some wisdom, though, in waiting for summer to pass. So
I don't think you can.
Yeah, I don't think you can either. But
Erytheia is going to pull further and further ahead as the war goes on, and you don't know what Pythium's situation is. So, like, you can assume that Pythium is similarly going to be getting, even more and even better research if you keep waiting. Just because, like if as Atlantis, if you look at your situation, you're like, okay, if I see this northern fort, I'm on one underwater fort in my capital, and that's it. There's
Right.
no way you're going to be outproducing the 2 people that are attacking you.
Yeah, you got to go gas. And the other nice thing is that if they have like a big victory, that could swing TNC into, to mobilizing. And really, the second that TNC mobilizes on Erytheia is going to ask for terms with Atlantis, I think. Because
I don't
I
think
think
he has to.
Okay,
If
we'll
you
see.
think that Atlantis is dead, then
Well,
your terms, if you want to put it that way.
That's going to, yeah. What I was saying is like some world where Atlantis wins like a victory or 2, TNC is like, okay, I'm coming to war now. I think if Atlantis is still showing major signs of life, even if he would eventually get ground down, I think Erytheia would ask for terms. TNC, I think, is a major threat to them if they start going. Oh my gosh, TNC pulled back. Wait, what?
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I do not agree with that at all. But
let's
we'll
see.
see. Yeah, let's finish this Atlantis thing first.
Let's finish the
and
Atlantis
then,
thing.
Yeah. But yes, so from Erytheia's perspective, unless like your army just gets completely wiped in that frost guard thing or ice guard thing that you were talking about, and Pythium's army gets wiped and it's just like the worst possible scenario, I would feel very comfortable staying in that war. Right? Because you're an ally, you don't need to go do 100% commitment. And you can kind of focus on defending stuff with a mage advantage, particularly because TNG is so behind on infrastructure. So Erytheia is going to be very ahead not only on research, but in terms of the number of mages that they can field. So as long as you hit some good research timings where you can, communion up and drop some air elementals, for example, or once you do that, you can retreat most of the mages after they summon, right? So you have like the one that remains for magic leadership with some buffs on him, and then like your line holding to just deal some damage. Like you have a lot of different ways of fighting defensively with relatively small commitments that can do a lot of damage to TNG's armies. So between that and the fact that I think that like as your troop masses up, like in terms of like building your second army essentially to fight on this southern front, as long as you don't again get wiped in your other war, I think that you should have no problem holding on. Like you're going to lose some land for sure, but you're going to be able to turn it around and beat TNG as well.
Okay, I'm not convinced. I think TNG can pose a potentially existential threat. Some of this I might not have a great grasp of how Erytheia's magic is going to work against them, but I have a lot of respect for Demosthenes as a player, and if he had just finished his first war and I was working on mine and he attacks me in the back, I'm probably going to try to give him the respect of like mobilizing everything to that. Now, if my partner Pythium is confident that they can finish Atlantis, I might not come to terms with Atlantis, right? And keep some minimal commitment here. But I would probably want to move everything, like all my armies, back to the south. So, but I don't know. I think we'll see.
Yeah.
So with that, let's pull up the message from TNG. Throne of Life. I took Growth 2, so I could be excited about Growth Thrones. And it's time to celebrate. Getting one turn 15, certainly better than expected. It's a considerable nature income. Almost means TNG should be able to sustain Poison Ward with Pythium, even if our site searching luck is poor.
Yeah, good thinking.
Yep.
That's actually very important if he's thinking about that 2v2.
Right. Yeah, 3 gems a turn is pretty sick. So I think we have a big battle here with Agartha, and I don't want to ruin it, so I'm going to try to do it from the menu here.
We kind of saw how it went in terms of what's left in the province.
The viewers might not have.
No, I mean in terms of like what's left on the map.
Yeah, I know. But people might not have been paying attention. I don't want to ruin it. We don't have to. This is it, I think. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at these beautiful armies. We've got beautifully arrayed sparse line cave drakes here, or cave knights, with the dense line in the front. We've got 3 Chthonian reanimators. We've got 1 Holy 2 dude. We've got about 60 crossbow scattered in different squads.
60? No, that's... What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, no, okay. Yeah, it's 5 times 3, 15. It's about 32 crossbows.
No, really?
It's 3 per square. Oh, I didn't see the ones at the top there. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And he's got more on the bottom.
Like,
okay, yeah. So
my snap judgment counting of units is usually like, it's pretty good,
Yeah, I'd only noticed the lightly armored guys at the back, not the more heavily armored crossbows on the flanks there. Yeah.
And then he's got these penumbral stacks and these drakes, which are kind of positioned to deal with a lot of the likely targeting area for air elementals. On Midgard's side, we have what is almost certainly various sorts of bait up front, which are probably designed to flank and die. We've got a lot of Einhair. This is, I'm guessing, 80-something Einhair. And we've got 6 Volva.
It's interesting that he's putting his Volva in those dense squares of 3 instead of spreading them out.
Yeah. I think the buffs will still be able to, like, you'll be able to cast as many buff spells as you want. Well, so
the difference
what's the
is
reason for
the
splitting
spread.
them out? Yeah.
So first of all, mages, when they're doing their first buffs, are going to prioritize themselves, especially if they're in a square.
Really?
So if you're doing so,
I thought it was HP density.
I don't know about luck and ethereal, but I know that for cheat fate, they count number of units, not HP.
Okay.
I know that body ethereal counts HP because body ethereal prioritizes elephants. I'm not sure about luck. Luck, it would make sense to me to also prioritize number of units, but I mean, we'll see.
We'll see.
But then the other thing is that you're covering a wider area, right? Like if you have them clustered like that, then your center can all get luck, and you're probably also going to start tagging some PD as units run forward, but the guys on the flanks aren't.
Yeah. It would be interesting too. I think with this formation, there's a decent amount of range threat. I was going to say there's not a lot of range threat. It'd be interesting too if you could because the range on luck is pretty big. I think it's like 10 or 20. I wonder if you positioned them back, had the mages here, and they were buffing the line behind them, and then as these guys ran forward, they could get a couple more shots off.
Yeah, the problem is that the Volva are already going to be prioritized for like arrow shots in general, just because they're lower protection. So by having them forward, then you kind of make that problem even worse.
Maybe. I think these guys will do a pretty good job, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, those
I don't
guys
know.
have shields and high armor though, so the archers will they'll shoot them if they're the only things in range, but they'd much prefer to be shooting the squishy mages.
Yeah, okay. We'll see. The rest of the mage support, we've got some interesting things happening back here. This looks like a gray one. Oh no, this is a Volva.
No, yeah, it's a Volva.
A Galderman, and then a Jade Sorceress. I wonder if we have a Thug. This looks like Thug Blessing. I guess we're going to see Moss Body and some stuff back here. Some air gems on this guy. I'm not sure what that's for. Maybe baby air elementals.
Yeah, even the mini ones can make a difference just because they can stun.
Right. But I don't know what this guy's doing. So let's just see what happens now. Okay. There's not going to be too much to watch on this side for Agartha. We'll just watch this. I want to see how the buffs go.
He's doing summon Earth Power, which is great. That's reinvigoration for the Skella spam.
Oh, on Agartha's side.
Yeah, so he gave his guys gems.
That's nice. That's real nice.
Okay, so it looks like Luck is targeting with HP. So that's helpful. Nope, they did target themselves.
Target themselves, yeah. How about that? The other ones
and one of them also...
Yeah, one of them ate a crossbow. I think that's some of the problem if you put them right here in the middle, like... I don't know. I mean, the crossbows also like to hit things that have other things around it, so...
Yeah, and spreading out means you've only got one guy in each square.
Yeah. Ooh, that's missed.
Missed. Okay, so that's going to reduce the effectiveness of the crossbows, and since he's running an all melee army, he probably feels pretty good about that.
That was
and
this
then,
guy. Yeah.
His line of Galdermen is set up to actually block his PD from running forward.
Which makes some sense.
Yeah, it kind of keeps your stuff a little more together, and it also means that your indies aren't going to HP route you.
So looking at this, it looks like he's gotten luck on about half of these guys. Now, it's really sad he doesn't have... And we see Solar Rays coming out in a big way. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's just deleting these things.
That's going to do a ton, actually.
Yeah.
The Solar Rays is amazing. He does have Earth Meld working against him, though.
Right. That is on the table. Oh, yeah. Look at these guys getting hit by Earth Meld.
And, yeah, you saw the guys in the south got hit first.
Yeah.
So they got separated out from the rest of their little squad.
These Penumbras are just getting deleted by Solar Rays.
Yeah, I think that was... we commented on this last turn that's kind of unintended counter.
Right, the counter to the counter.
Yeah, and he just happens to have it online just by coincidence. That said, that Earth Meld is doing a lot of work.
Right.
Oh, and then we're also kind of seeing how well these Cave Drakes are doing. Like, those guys are just sitting in melee.
Right.
Like, the Knights died pretty quickly once they got into melee with the mass Einhirs, but the Drakes that they left behind are just sitting there, chilling.
Right, and these Einhair are some of the spookiest scales, like, blenders.
Yeah, look at that, 23 and 25 damage.
Right, yeah. I mean, these guys will kill things really quickly.
Yeah, this is a very, very close fight, but it looks like Agartha is actually coming out on top just by virtue of those Cave Drakes.
Yeah, they just have so much tanking ability here, like, and it really works well in conjunction with these crossbows, who are probably doing a lot of the damage. And then these Earth Melds here.
The other thing which we're kind of seeing here is that the Cave Drake's second form, even though you can see a bunch of those Cave Drakes have routed there, that's not counted as part of your army's initial HP. So for HP route purposes, the Cave Drakes are basically free hit points.
Huh.
If you don't bring them in the Cave Drake form, just because the second form isn't counted.
I'll go ahead and turn on team-colored squares here. So we've got these Einhair closing in. How many mages are left from... I don't think any of the reanimators are still alive, so I think we've seen our last of the Earth Melds. But these Cave Drakes are pushing back here into the Mage Core.
Yeah, and he is routing those crossbows now.
Right.
So it...
Oh, Shockwave coming out.
Oh, that's actually one of the best things that he actually has against those Cave Drakes.
Right.
Because it's armor negating. But yeah, you can see that Midgard got HP routed.
Oh, no.
And Agartha didn't. So even though Midgard was basically winning this battle,
right,
it's actually still possible that he wins just from the Berserked Einhir.
Right.
So the thing is, if the other army routes first, then your guys will never route even if you have no commanders left on the field.
Right.
They can only route as like individuals. So they would need to basically take it to the next turn timer. So now the question is just if these already berserked Einhir can kill the remaining cave drakes. Oh, but now look at their fatigue.
All right, that we're on turn 29, so or round 73, 102,
Right. And once
78,
they hit
103.
the important threshold is once they hit 100 fatigue for the first time, then they're routing.
Right.
And then they suffer that massive
penalty.
penalty.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, yeah, so the cave drakes clean up.
Cave drakes, what's up? I mean, those cave drakes were just bosses in expansion, and
yeah, they performed much better than I would have expected in this battle. That said, Midgard's magic was extremely effective.
Right.
Mostly just from those solar rays to counter those 22 penumbrals.
Yeah, the penumbrals did not have a great showing. They killed 8 units, and these are expensive summons. Yeah. I think if Midgard had body ethereal and like they had 2 more vulvas, I think that might have swung it. The other thing is maybe I want to see what he's doing with this Jade Sorceress. Like I don't really remember seeing what happened down here in the bottom right.
I would think it's Moss Body.
Protection like Moss Body, but on these guys. So
well, yeah, they're going to target themselves first. They also have higher HP density.
So I think they should have put these in different tiles too, especially down here.
I also think
here.
I think they're heavily overvaluing their Vans. I think Moss Body would have actually Moss Body and
these
protection.
Guys. Yeah,
protection in particular is actually way better on the Einhir. Right. Because that natural protection just stacks so well with their armor.
Yeah.
And you want them to go berserk, you want them to go berserk with as little damage taken as possible.
That was exactly what I was thinking, was like, I think this is a mistake. Like, if they had thugs or something down here, buffing them would have been great. But, like,
yeah, if they had
on this person, I think quickness on Einhir would have been sick. Protection on Einhir would have been sick. Moss Body on Einhir, all those things would have been cool. Putting these guys up at the front, and then what you were saying about splitting them up, because they did end up targeting themselves. If these guys were in different tiles, that would be 2 more tiles of Einhir buffed with luck. And then if these guys were up here, that would have been a whole nother tile of Einhir buffed with luck. And then, a bunch of protection and maybe quickness or something too.
I think ultimately the swing, though, at least part of it, was damage output, though. They just didn't kill the Agarthans quickly enough. Although survivability does admittedly play a big factor into that, because if your guys live longer and don't if they don't die to crossbows, they hit better. I do like the mist play. I think that was smart.
Yeah, that was really good. But yeah,
I think if you wait one more turn, you get 10 more Einhir, it becomes a better fight as well.
I applaud him for taking a fight, though. When you can, like, if they knew Agartha was going to attack, I like the idea of rolling it. I think they would have won this. I think it was super close as it was. I think if they just split the mages up, put these guys up at the front so they weren't buffing the Vans. And I know Arco sent me a message about he should have put some items on the thugs.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that too. I think he was saying Thunder Whip or something, but I don't know about that in this case. Yeah.
I had actually mentioned Thunder Whip as well, but also Aaron had mentioned after this battle being expecting to see some thugged Van Hearses, because we know that he'd been using those Van Hearses as banders, and we also knew that some had escaped. Thunder Whip in particular is actually usually very good against Agartha, because they've got high protection, low hit point units. Yeah. So a little less effective against the Cave Drakes, just because they actually do have a pile of hit points. But 3 chaining armor negating damage is really great versus human troops.
Yeah, it's just not great when it hits your friendly fires your Einhir, is my thought.
That's true. But
it's really great with the Vans, because the Vans have shock resistance. The Einhir don't.
Yeah, and if your guys are being used as thugs, they should be at least somewhat separated from your army regardless.
Okay. The other thing we didn't see was the gray ones. This would have been a great time for them to make an appearance, because you're basically all in at this. Like, this army gets wiped.
Isn't he running in a prison god?
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh, I think you're right. You're right. Why did I think I saw them?
Pythium has gray ones.
Okay, I think you're right. I think I'm mixing things up.
Yeah, this is like a pretty much full-scale, some bless build. But yeah, this was a very, very close fight. And it did do a lot of damage to Agartha.
It did or didn't?
It did.
Yeah. It did a ton. I think if they did it, I I mean, the thing is, there's a lot more, we're talking about like what could Midgard have done. I don't think there's a ton Agartha could have done differently other than bring more mages or different kinds of mages, right? Like this was well scripted and it was a nice high commitment stack from Agartha. But
And it's worth pointing out that he didn't seem to know that Midgard had gone for evocation.
Right. So, but I do think there was room. I think this could have been like maybe only 40 Einherjar dead or maybe even 30 if he had like really got everything perfect and won. It would have still been a very high attrition win, but I think he could have maybe eked this out a little bit better. Not in terms of just winning, but even in terms of attrition.
Yeah, that's fair. Generally, if you win a battle, it's going to look a lot better from the attrition thing, especially because a bunch of those guys got caught retreating.
Yeah. I think even things like the nature random Galderman, who wasn't doing like mist or anything, I think it would have been good to have him casting protection in the Jade Sorceress up at the front with the Einherjar. Because you get, like, the Einherjar basically just had luck on them. And they get so much better when you start stacking buffs, right? So we now have luck and protection, or it would have been really nice to have Body Ethereal, but, that wasn't in the cards.
Yeah, completely agree.
But very cool battle.
And the other thing that he's doing, which I approve of, is, raiding.
Yeah. And, that opens up more spaces for things to retreat to. Oh, takes this back 2 Galderman and Einherjar.
That's interesting. I wonder why he sent out 2 Galderman and not just 1.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing.
Okay, Iron Skins, they don't get targeted by indies. Mist. Oh, they're just there to be commanders and Lightning Bolt, I guess. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. How could you use an Earth one?
Oh, that's a thug. Whoa, why wasn't that in the battle? Why wasn't that on a Vanhurst?
Yeah. I think that's questionable. Yeah, that would have helped.
Okay. And these guys have 9 attack.
Yeah.
Or like 8 attack, 9 with the whip.
Yeah.
Actually, no, whip doesn't give an attack bonus. Yeah, it's just 9 attack. But yeah, that weapon could have been much better used by a different commander.
Yeah, I was thinking if you had 2 Galdermen, you probably only want to lead one here and then have the other one join the battle. I think a lot of Dominions is just knowing when you're all in. He was like kind of all in at the fight up here, but he's definitely all in here. And when you're all in, you're all in. Don't put 50% of your chips in. But I think he did mobilize pretty much all the mages to do something this turn, so that's good.
Yeah, just seeing that he did have that gear ready makes me even more disappointed that we didn't see any in-army thug.
Yeah. Well, and then this guy must have gear. I doubt he raided without gear. Oh, no.
Nope. He's just got the thing for Mistform, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Nice.
And like the fact that one kind of tells you something, right? That these guys are just way better in terms of their stats. Like for all the Galdermen have regeneration and decent hit points and even like that second form, which is nice. Yeah. And actually does have better combat stats. The Vanhyr's are just massively better attack, defense, and the Glamour and Mount also help.
Yeah. Okay. That being said, I think what you had said is right, which is, okay, he won this, but it was a very Pyrrhic victory. I don't think that he can't win Wave 2. I mean, he probably couldn't even really win Wave 2 against Agartha, even though Agartha took huge casualties here. There's a big piping pile of reinforcements coming in, but he definitely can't take Wave 2 from TNG. So
yeah, and you can also kind of see that some of his stuff is cut off, that's with that raiding party. So
right.
If Agartha is like, okay, yeah, you can send this on here raiding, like do your thing, it's gonna be very hard for him to bring that back for a capital defense.
That's true.
Here's that, yeah. Like those guys, they can do some raiding, but there's even Volvas in there. That's even worse. Yeah, those guys should just keep raiding at this point because I don't think you can make it home.
Yeah, I mean, you could maybe cut through the indies or something, but yeah, I mean, I think the Agartha play is just fortify this, right? Like step forward, start doing counter raiding here, and just sit here. Because I don't think Vanheim or Midgard can kick him out after that.
Completely agree, yeah. You move your army up, you move more mages, you PD dump, like that's where you fight.
Yep. Okay, and TNG, some very light raiding. This got pinged by... This is interesting. TNG had just a single mage here defending. I'm guessing it was a webcaster to deal with the thug. Wait, where are they? Did I miss him? Oh, he retreated. Okay.
Yeah, it might be site searching.
Yeah. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, the one thing that's odd to me is that TNG's positioning, like maybe he is planning on going for Erythia. That does make sense, given the like potential next wars that he'd been talking about. But I don't think you back off of Midgard's cap at this point.
Yeah, maybe I bet you Artha was like, yeah, we're gonna stomp them. There's nothing they can do. Blah 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 blah. Right, like disrespecting Midgard. And TNG's like, okay, you get the cap, you go and kill him. I'll get ready to do something else.
Yeah, I just really think that cap
right. I think
too valuable for TNG.
Yeah, well, I think now that this Agarthan army died, obviously it's TNG that should kill it. So I think they're probably going to come in. TNG gets this, and Agartha gets this. That's my guess.
Yeah, but that would make sense. I also just think TNG needs the air gems.
Yeah, that's true too. Okay, let's keep moving. So we have a message from Marignon, Barbarians again. Also, my Hydra Holiday Dota wanted to give a shout out to 7path for the Phantasmal Chart Maker crossbow expansion strategy. All right.
Okay. Yeah, cool. 7path was also the guy who had first come up with the Undying plus Healing Touch Turbocom thing, at least to my knowledge. So yeah, he's a very creative player.
Yeah, very cool. And I definitely clutched what we thought was going to be like a few failed expansions. So I don't think it's the best way to expand with Marignon, but it was a way to make crossbow expansion work. So
one of those dinky things that you see in blitzes where people are trying out all sorts of edge ideas.
Right.
Interestingly, Marignon's armies look like they're kind of pretty far away, but with sailing, they can all very easily consolidate at either side of that lake.
Yeah.
So, like, even though they're all in the cave now, he can pull everything to the Atlantis front if he wants to.
Right. And maybe he does that to try to get the inner throne. That would be kind of nice for him.
Oh, yeah. That's huge.
Yeah.
Free blood slaves. Earth gem is great. Order is great.
Order's great. Okay, so that's that. I think we've covered this. Let's take a look here at Joman. I don't think we have any messages.
Utgard taking back an indie province.
Yeah. We've got the PVM side of the game. Oh, the Ghost King gets deployed.
Lake's a good place for it because the Death Mages can't easily go underwater.
Right. Well, this isn't underwater. This is on land.
Oh, okay. I saw the lake there and I'm like, oh, that's where he's going. But no, yeah.
So he's kept the Rod of Death, which is a little interesting.
Well, he's just basically planning on being able to be immune to conventional troops and then rat them with Fear Aura.
Right. But again, as we've talked about with Atlantis, same risks apply here with Dust to Dust. This guy wasn't on Advance and Cast.
This guy is massively worse off than Atlantis' guy. Like, his points are just too low.
Right. I mean, he can handle one or two, but he's not going to be able to tank him for any length of time. And again, clear speed becomes important there. Like, you can't really do an endurance strategy on a undead dude with this much HP. Versus Death Mages.
Yeah, it's interesting that he didn't have that guy set to Advance and Cast. Like, I think that you either have it retreat or Advance and Cast, right?
Right.
The only thing I can think of is that he thought that Joman might send a small group of Sohei, or not Sohei, the Go Haramato guys, and that it would beat that.
Yeah. Let's take a look at Zabalba here. I mean, he's got just a tremendous number of troops here. I think this is enough to do the decapitation strike. Presumably, he's been trying to patrol out some of these assassins. Clearly, he started making bats here in this cave.
The fact that there are sacreds in that cave tells me that at least one commander had been assassinated there. But luckily, he can recruit new commanders there as well.
Right. And Guard Commander, I imagine, should work pretty well, like, for ninjas, right? Because even though,
unless the commander gets killed as they're being recruited. That's the one thing.
Yeah. But I'm just imagining these shitty bats, they're not good for much, but they're probably okay against ninjas if they show up in assassination battles. And I believe the Obsidian Warriors, do they have bodyguard? I have a feeling I remember it on them, but no, they don't.
I think maybe the EA guys do, the Sun Guard. Let me double check real quick.
Yeah, I don't see any bodyguards right now. I thought there were some, but apparently I'm misremembering.
It's the early age guys, yeah. So the Sun Guides from EA do have bodyguard.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, things are looking dire. I think Zabalba's waiting for something to do the decapitation strike. He's being very cautious here, but time is on his side. So
Yeah, I would guess it has to be research related because that's the only that or maybe the ninjas.
Right.
Because I don't see why else he's sitting in that forest.
Oh, interestingly, Agartha, Arco moving into the to the underwater.
Well, I mean, he had been recruiting those Ictiids there,
Yeah.
so may as well.
Interesting. I mean,
And he's even got
Arco
long
really
dead.
does not like these indie flags. I'm sure he's deeply offended that there's any indie flags that turn 16 in this game, as I am. But Arco's doing something about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, Joman was just not in a position to clear out his lake, so Arco can take advantage.
Yep.
That's going to be difficult for him to hold from Xibalba if Xibalba decides to go for that lake, just because he can't recruit nearly as many amphibians as Xibalba can. And he also can't provide as much mage support because Xibalba has those native amphibian mages.
Right. Okay. But yeah, this army here should be strong enough to go ahead and finish this off. There's a bit of heavy cav, so he'll do some probably lance bait and go ahead and attack.
Yeah, he split his group, actually. So he did both defend from the Hawkmeisters and go after the Indies at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's a good read, that he kind of like knew that what he had was good enough to beat the Hawkmeisters and he didn't need all of them. So
yeah,
he was still able to also send out that expansion party.
These Hawkmeisters do not like fighting these dudes. He lost a couple from
the decay weapons,
the decay weapons, but
3 Hawkmeisters for 2 Heart Companions is a very good trade for Arco.
Yeah.
And there's a battle on that fort. Oh, he's just pinging it. Okay, so he's checking out what's there.
Horse Trolls reclaiming the outer throne.
It was Indy before, it shall be Indy again.
Yes.
Okay, so I do like this, the way that Arco's splitting up his stuff.
Right.
Because he knows that the Hawkmeisters can't effectively counter-raid against these Sacreds. So as long as his stacks are good enough to beat PD, while still having, like 1 elephant to squish a square of Hawkmeisters is fine, right, then Ulm is going to have a really hard time defending. So this is kind of increasing his velocity in terms of how many provinces he's taking, which is very important because he had a slow start to this war.
So this is actually really funny. This elephant is routing, but it's at 100 fatigue. So every time it hits something on its way back, it stops to catch its breath.
And it does eventually make it off the battlefield, unfortunately for Arco. But he's got enough of those ethereal sacreds that he should have no problem cleaning up.
Right. So, this was, I think, 20 PD and 10 crossbows. And takes it, if the elephant survived with pretty minimal attrition. And it looks like it did. It looks like it retreated back here.
Yeah. Still needs to send someone to pick it up, so his raiding forward is going to be a little bit slower, but he can just regroup with that army in the farm.
Yeah.
But now he's actually really pushed Ulm back. Like now he's basically at his, he's like slightly better now than his pre-war borders.
Right. And yeah, I'm wondering what these Black Priests are going to do. Because he doesn't really have an army which is going to take super well for the Earth buffs. Like Shrink the Giants, Legions of Steel. Iron Darts is okay. I don't
very
really
long
love
range.
It. Yeah, I don't. Oh, I can't see it here. Yeah, I don't love it. Maybe it'll be good. I think I prefer magic dueling everybody.
Yeah, I mean you definitely want to do both, but the advantage of Iron Darts is, first of all, it's magic, right? So it's at least going to be effective against the ethereal guys. It's still armor piercing. So it's like actually still going to be effective into the protection units. But it does have a lot fewer projectiles than Iron Blizzard. So like the one advantage it has over Blizzard is it's 40 range instead of 30. But just in terms of like the number of projectiles,
but you'll be missing so much at that range, it's like it's kind of like by the time you kind of want to shoot them when they're real close, and then I don't know. Or if they're in like a box, and we know Arco's doing like a line, I just feel like it's going to be hard to hit shit with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's 5 precision.
Yeah.
So that's not bad. It's also slightly higher damage. So, like, even though it's lower research, like, you can still use it.
Yeah.
And I think it might be his best offensive thing for killing those elephants.
Yeah. Ethereal elephants. Those are going to be so gnarly for crossbows.
And Hawkmeisters. Like, Ulm just straight up does not have a unit that kills them effectively.
Right. The only way to kill them effectively is to magic duel the casters. So that's
like later on you have magic like MRN stuff, which Arco had actually pointed out that like these elephants are going to be outdated, right? And as soon as you run into a nature mage, you're in trouble.
Right.
But until he hits that point, he can, very comfortably just smash everything that this Ulm build can do early game.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't think there's much more to talk about here. Let's go ahead and take a look at, do we have any messages from the Mictlan Coalition? I don't think so. We do see Zabalba coming in and just casually taking this throne off of Mictlan. I think this is the turn before the coalition starts or something.
So I'm thinking he might have bought this. I admit,
maybe.
Like we talked about this off stream, but
right.
I think that because Shabal was currently committed to his fight with Joman, it doesn't make sense for him to assume that he can just go fight Mictlan with impunity because his troops are occupied, right? So he's really only going to be taking stuff that either he knows that Mictlan can't defend, or my thought is that he bought it. And part of the reason for that is there's 2 other provinces that are like equidistant from their capital. Yeah,
right.
The mountain and the caves. So if he is actually raiding Mictlan, he takes those as well.
Yeah, that's a good consideration. I guess the next few turns will tell, because Mictlan's not in any position to defend these right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, given his alpha strike with Joman, like if he's actually opening up hostilities, he's not just going to grab one province.
Right. Yeah,
and
that's a really good point.
If Mictlan is feeling threatened by this coalition, is like, oh, I'm going to die, I need blood slaves now, right? Then it makes sense to sell that throne, and then, Vadingheim can't take it.
Right.
I mean, Vadingheim can take it, sorry. There's nothing actually stopping Vadingheim from just taking it off of Shabalba, but it's, it becomes another consideration.
Right.
Yeah. And if Vadingheim does take it off Shabalba, then that at least opens up an ally to Mictlan.
Right. What I'm really looking at over here with Mictlan is Jaguar numbers. I just don't see enough little Jaguar sprites here. It's
very hard to tell, though, to be fair.
Yeah. He doesn't have long. He's got this big Pangean army closing in. There are small things that can make a difference. Like, this is primarily a ranged army. Little things like putting your guys in a sparse line can make a pretty big difference. Imps make a huge difference against these guys, especially just like scattering the imps out. So they come in like waves, and the crossbows are like tied up in melee while the Jaguars like march across the field in a sparse line. I'll be interested to see what they do here. The Gath thing actually looks the scariest to me. This looks like potentially Mictlan ending.
The other thing that Gath has going for it is they have really good research.
Right.
Like for the stage in the game. It's because he doesn't have those Earth 2 Yeti-Onai, he would have to burn gems in order to get that Strength of Giants out.
Right.
But we know he has the tech for it.
Yeah, so there's Gath. Here's Mictlan.
Yeah, Mictlan is not reading books.
No. Which is kind of fine. But I feel they need... I feel like this build needs you need some buffs at this point in the game to fight off a coalition, I think. It's going to be... I mean, maybe summon imps is enough, but I'm worried.
I think you need a much bigger bless if you in order to fend off a 1v3.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think this is nearly enough.
All right. Well, we'll get to see. I think... Oh, wait. Was the message from Mictlan? It was last turn. So they had that turn, this turn. They might have one more turn before battles start.
Do we see any Ocelots flying around?
Let's take a look.
It would be in their capital, I expect.
Yeah, none here.
Well, if he has any there, he has fewer than he has turkeys.
Right. I don't think this is enough research to get Aussies. I don't think this is not Blood 4.
Yeah, maybe you were right that by cats he actually just meant the Jaguars.
Yeah. So, at any rate, we'll see.
Han has stealth. You can see he bought a bunch of the regular satyrs in his southern fort.
Southern fort. Oh yeah, how about that?
So those guys are stealthy. So they're probably going to sneak through the throne, I would guess, or maybe sneak into the province that the Indies just grabbed. And the Stymphalian birds are actually really cool. So they're not amazing units, but they're cheap. They're only 8 gold. Right. And Copper Feathers is an AoE ability, so it always hits. So it is very low damage, right? Because it's 8 damage that doesn't have strength added. But it is very effective against Eagle Warriors, which are low hit point, low protection units that actually, take the whole 8 damage, and you hit 3 units with it when you do this, right? Since it's an AoE thing, it never misses. So that kind of ignores the defense portion of his Bless. So you do need a lot of these guys, and because they have basically the lowest combat speed in the game out of any mobile unit, combat speed of 2.
Oh my god, I'd never
they
noticed that
never-
before.
Yeah, they never get first hit, so you want these in like a second line. So typically the way that you use these guys, if you're trying to do like clearing out imps or eagle warriors, is you have a line formation of these guys immediately second from the back, and then a line formation behind them of whatever you want to die first. Like it could be even just like, regular harpies, the 7 gold guys. Then the eagles or imps fly in, they massacre the naked harpies. Then the birds attack back, and then they each wipe out either do most of a square of imps or a bunch of damage against the eagles. And then that's very cost effective for only 8 gold.
Yeah.
So they're kind of a very
you have to target these things against things that have almost no protection. But against things
they're-
that don't have hardly any protection, they're really good.
Yeah, they're a very, very niche unit, but imps and eagles are some of their best things that they're best against.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. That's some things I hadn't really thought about. I was aware of the unit and kind of the cool attack, but I'd never thought about those use cases. So, and didn't know about the combat speed too. That's wild.
Yeah, it's really funny if you ever see Storm go up against these guys because they move 1 square around.
That's so funny.
They just sit there. Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we're playing the waiting game here to see what happens. I think we've covered about everything now. Yeah, I don't see anything else. This was an exciting turn, though. We had that cool battle with Agartha.
We got the very.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say we had the very clinical Fell Vapors usage from Pythium.
Right.
Great magic synergies there.
Right. Just killing PD, but I actually because you and I had kind of peeked at this turn off stream, and I was like, oh man, this Atlantis position is so bad. Really looking at it and studying it now and like talking with you about it, I actually feel like they can sort of salvage it. Like maybe not turn it into a win, but especially with TNG as an ally, which I don't think I knew when I was looking at it off stream. I think they have the ability to take some major wins here and then maybe even turn it into like an actual, killing one of these guys. It's going to be tricky, but I don't feel it's completely out of the cards now.
I think it depends on what the other players do, and it kind of requires them to make a mistake. Like it requires Pythium to not have enough reinforcements, and it requires Erytheia to basically get caught so that they lose a bunch of their crossbows without mage support. I think without those two things happening, that they're still just in very dire straits.
Maybe. I think Acid Suits plus God have a decent chance of wiping this stack plus this army. And
yeah, it really depends on what mage reinforcements Pythium sends.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing.
I don't think much can make it here. This is a cold swamp.
Well, their mages have swamp survival.
Okay.
I mean, they're the serpent cult. Come on.
Okay. No, that's fair.
Well, not the Renatus.
Can they make it from the cap? What does he have here?
The serpent priests have. Oh no, they don't have swamp survival. I was sure that they did.
Yeah, I don't think they can make it then. I think they're.
Okay.
I mean,
never mind. They do have 16 map move, which I guess is something.
Yeah. Anyway, who knows how this is going to play out? It's a really hard Atlantis position, but I'm hopeful at least. So that's actually maybe the thing I'm most excited about seeing next turn.
Even their serpents don't have swamp survival. That's so weird. Yeah, the only thing with swamp survival in this nation are the Hydras.
Huh.
I was sure that like the guys whose whole shtick is that they can summon Hydra hatchlings out of swamp temples should be able to move through swamps, but no.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining me, Sai.
Yeah, thanks for hosting.
And viewers, those of you who made it to the end, my hats are off to you. Thank you for joining both of us.
And we'll see you next time.
Yep. Take care.